Thanks for staying with us. Welcome to Network Africa on Channels Television. I'm Amarachi Ubani. On the program today, you'll hear about the bus carrying university students in northeast of Egypt, crashing and killing 12 people and injuring 33 others. There'll also be reactions trailing the Libyan treatment of the Super Eagles of Nigeria ahead of the return leg of the CAF qualifiers. Plus, the Food and Agricultural Organization decrying structural barriers hindering women's economic potential in rural areas. I'm Amarachi Ubani. Thanks again for joining us. We'll begin today in Egypt, which has experienced yet another tragedy, one day after the train incident on Monday, in which more than 20 people were injured. Today, however, a bus carrying university students in northeast of the country crashed, killing 12 people and wounding 33 others. There were students aboard the vehicle who were returning from their classes to their dormitory when the crash occurred. The cause of the crash has not been revealed, but the driver of the vehicle has been arrested and is undergoing interrogation. Health Minister Khalid Abdel Ghaffar and the Minister of Higher Education, Ayman Ashur, have paid their respects to the relatives of the students. The injured have been transported to hospital and we're awaiting updates on their condition. To a story that touches home now, the Nigerian Super Eagles have returned back in the country after pulling out of the African Nations Cup qualifier match in Libya following their horrific treatment at the Al Abrak airport in Libya. The players were abandoned for over 16 hours with no food, no water, no means of transportation to get to Benghazi, where they had hoped to seal a qualification berth for the finals in Morocco late next year. The Libyan Football Federation says the incident was not deliberate and is asking Nigeria to be understanding, adding that their players had also faced travel difficulties in Nigeria last week.
We were really maltreated, and there was nobody from the FA that came to receive us. Nobody. We were just left with the security. In fact, it was when I saw that the situation was unbearable, we made arrangements to hire our own vehicles. We hired our own vehicles. They did not allow us to go out and join our vehicles.
There is no gainsaying the fact that we need to respect, our national teams. Our national teams carry, the national flag of our countries, our various countries. If you look at particularly the Nigerian national team, the crop of players that we have to go through, make a lot of sacrifices to represent our country and to play for it. So we must be interested in their circumstances and in their situation at every point in time.
Meanwhile, the Nigeria Football Federation has rejected claims of poor treatment by Nigeria when it hosted the Libyan national team, the Mediterranean Knights, when they arrived in Nigeria last week, saying the LFF created chaos for its own team. The Libyan Football Federation criticized its Nigerian counterpart after its national side returned home before their Africa Cup of Nations 2025 qualifier in Benghazi. A statement from the LFF had said it condemns the steps taken by the Nigeria Football Federation in refusing to play the game and said it would take all necessary legal measures to preserve the interests of the Mediterranean Knights. Super Eagles captain William Troost Ekong defended the squad's decision to boycott the match on social media. In a statement released on Monday night, NFF Assistant Director of Protocol, Mr. Emmanuel Ayobumi, said the Libyan Football Federation only informed the NFF that its team was landing in Port Harcourt and not Uyo, only 3 hours to the team's arrival on Tuesday. He said, and I'm quoting him here, "I spoke to the General Secretary of LFF at length on Monday, October 7, and he never hinted that his team would be arriving on Tuesday the following day. He only said he would get back to me, but he never did. On Monday evening, someone sent as an advance party by the LFF called me and said his team would be arriving on Tuesday by noon. We made all arrangements to receive the team in Uyo on arrival." Well, there are more reactions from the Libyan team, but also from the NFF, which has also been reacting. The communications department of the NFF has debunked some of the statements made by the Libyan Football Federation about this, and also about its treatment of the Libyan team when it arrived in Nigeria. The NFF communications department itemizes 20 bullet points. It says itemized what exactly happened in Nigeria, beg your pardon, in Libya when the Nigeria football team arrived. Communications Director Dr. Demola Olajire was the one who released this statement to the media about it, and he did itemize the 20 things that he said were happened on the Super Eagles' arrival in Libya. One, he said, the chartered value jet aircraft departed from the Victor Atta International Airport, Uyo, at 11:55 hours on Sunday, 13th October 2024. He said it landed at the Aminu Kano International Airport, Kano, at 13:10 hours for the completion of the immigration formalities and for the aircraft to refuel. Secondly, the aircraft took off from Kano at 15:18 hours for the 3-hour and 35-minute flight to Benghazi, expecting to arrive a few minutes before 8 p.m. Libyan time. Three, he says, just as he was about to commence his initial approach into Benghazi, the captain, that's a pilot, was instructed by the control tower that he could not land in Benghazi despite having all the required landing papers and having completed all formalities before leaving Uyo and later Kano. He says should proceed to the Al Abrak International Airport, even though the airport lacked the control navigators for landing at such hours. He complained that he was short on fuel, but his words fell on deaf ears as he was told in stern manner that the directive was from higher authorities. Four, he said, on landing at the Al Abrak International Airport in the small town of Labrak at 19:50 hours, it was clear the airport was not well utilized. There were no scanning machines or the usual equipment for this service, and officials had to make do with mobile phones to scan passport data pages. The delegation, it says, which includes 22 players and team officials, that's the NFF President Alhaji Ibrahim Musa Gusau, Deputy Governor of Edo State, Comrade Philip Schreiber, and a couple of NFF board members, the NFF General Secretary, Dr. Mohammed Sanusi, a couple of parliamentarians, a couple of NFF managements and media representatives, and a couple of stakeholders were all shown scant respect at the airport authorities by airport authorities who applied curt manner and stare tones. It took over an hour for the team's luggage to roll through the carousel, despite the fact the bags and other items had already been hauled from the aircraft immediately on arrival. The rest of his bullet points you can read on our website, channelstv.com. The chairman, Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, Abike Dabiri Erewa, says she condemns the treatment meted out to the Super Eagles team by the Libyan authorities ahead of the second leg match in the country. She noted that diverting the Eagles' flight would have meant another 3 hours of road travel to the main venue of the match, an unpalatable option. Considering the dangers traveling by road in Libya, especially in its current situation, she, however, expressed hope the Ministry of Sports and the Nigeria Football Federation would advise appropriately and is urging CAF to treat the matter with the seriousness it deserves. The team, which left Nigeria on Sunday to Libya for its return match, had their flight diverted to an innocuous airport far away from the venue of the match, where they were stranded for about 15 hours. Now we know it's over 20, without food, water, rest, or a means of communication. Joining us now to discuss this really sensitive issue is Nigeria's former ambassador to Libya, Ambassador Mohammed Ibrahim. Joins us via Zoom audio. He is in Kano, Nigeria's northern state. Ambassador, thank you for joining me on the program and for being here. The response that we're looking for, thank you for joining us to answer our questions. Let's begin with who you think bears responsibility for what has happened in Libya?
I think essentially miscommunication will be mainly responsible for the incident that happened in the AFCON qualifiers between Nigeria and Libya. Unfortunately, Libya escalated it to the point of holding Nigeria's team hostage in their country. And that has not done any good, for Libya, because now it is seen in the eyes of the whole world as the villain. Remember, Nigeria has over 50 million of its citizens on social media, while Libya has less than 5 million. So Nigeria was able to take advantage of this to inform the whole world what has happened, in Libya. And now Libya, as I've said, is the villain from this, incident.
Could Monday's incidents be a reflection, perhaps, of the state of Nigeria's relations with Libya? I know the Minister of Foreign Affairs has summoned the Libya chargé d'affaires because they don't have an ambassador. We already know the political situation in Libya. There's no central government. There's only a UN-recognized government in Libya.
Not at all. This incident is not a reflection of the state of relations between Libya and Nigeria. Libya and Nigeria have been friends for a very long time, especially during the Gaddafi period. We have diplomatic relations between the two countries, and we cooperate at all levels, especially in the AU and even in the United Nations. Unfortunately, this football issue came up, and it is now, the main thing. Fortunately, I believe the withdrawal of Nigeria has been able to save the situation, because it could have been worse, probably with loss of life. That would have had a significant impact, a damaging impact on the relationship between the two countries. Mike, this is not strange, in world football. There have been similar incidents in many parts, of the world, especially in South America, where there have been misunderstandings that have led to breaking of diplomatic relations between two nations. There is the case of El Salvador and Honduras that led to the involvement of their militaries following the 1970 World Cup qualifiers that brought serious misunderstandings between the two countries. Over 6,000 people died, 12,000 injured, and over 50,000 people displaced. So you can see ours is a child play. Fortunately, it has not cost anybody's life. So we can pick up from there with the help of CAF. This matter will be resolved as quickly as possible. Definitely, it's not going to affect the diplomatic relations between Libya and Nigeria.
Yeah, thankfully no life was lost. The Libyan authorities, however, denied that there was any foul play in what happened in Libya on Monday. But they do recall the treatments of their players last week in Nigeria. How can Nigeria redeem her image and the impression that, this incident has had on the Libyan Football Federation?
The Libyan authorities are denying any blame on this over this incident. Remember that Libya is a divided country There is the UN-recognized government in Tripoli and the rebel government in Benghazi. Unfortunately, we decided stage the march between Nigeria and Libya in the rebel section of the country. That is really quite unfortunate. I think there is a lesson from this incident. Nigeria should make sure that in the future, either any match involving Libya is played on a neutral ground, or at least let it be played in this UN-recognized part, of Libya, not in the rebel, area.
Ambassador Ibrahim, thank you so much for joining us on the program. I appreciate your thoughts and your analysis on the issue. A good thing we know our relations with Libya still remain despite what has happened. Thanks for joining us on Network Africa. When Augustina Tufor, a 30-year-old entrepreneur from Ghana, realized that most of the snacks available in the markets are filled with artificial additives, preservatives, and high levels of salt and sugar, she saw an opportunity to found Tropical Snacks, producing all-natural plantain chips from surplus local produce. Despite initial success, she found it hard to expand operations. Access to finance, market information, and adequate infrastructure posed significant barriers. The 30-year-old struggled with financing her startup as traditional financial institutions were reluctant to support a small woman-led venture. Now in Ghana, Augustina participated in a 2-day investment readiness boot camp designed to help women entrepreneurs secure loans for their businesses.
When it comes to financing for tropical snacks, we have indeed faced some issues. The first being that in approaching our bankers for a loan to be able to expand our operations, we were asked to deposit, to make available collateral. We were asked to make a deposit of 20,000 cedis even before getting the amount we requested, as well as getting a professional evaluator to evaluate our business, which was all going to cost so much even before getting the money. Not to talk about the high interest rate that was given, which was over 36%.
Well, more on Augustina, though. Her challenges are not common. Women constantly face structural barriers that hinder their economic potential for women in agriculture in sub-Saharan Africa, where they make up a large proportion of workforce. The hurdles are particularly steep. A study by the International Trade Center says over 70% of women-led businesses in Africa have insufficient access to financial services, while many also operate in the informal sector where they lack legal protections and access to training and market information.
Women enterprises are very active in the trade space at all levels, from informal trade to formal trade already. And the opening up of the free trade area brings new opportunities for them. However, it also comes with increased competition, increased regulations and rules and quality standards that women businesses may not be able to achieve. FAO partnered with the International Trade Center to really support women small businesses and open up their possibility to access new markets, and also prepare them with knowledge about the new trade regulations. The project also works with governments to let them know of what are some of the critical gender concerns that need to be integrated in agricultural trade policies, as well as promotes women's access to finance, working with financial operators, so training them on how to design financial products for small businesses.
Kenya has begun a process of relocating 50 elephants from the overcrowded MWEA National Reserve to the more spacious and Aberdare National Park. I guess that was Muya, in a bid to ease environmental pressure and reduce human-wildlife conflict. The 42 square kilometer Mwea Reserve, designed to host approximately 50 elephants, has seen its population swell to 156. This has caused authorities to be concerned about habitat degradation. This landmark operation involves a team of over 100 wildlife specialists using helicopters, trucks, and advanced tracking technology. Elephants are darted from helicopters, then carefully transported to their new home. As of Monday, only 44 elephants had been successfully moved, with the remaining few scheduled for relocation by tomorrow.
The Mwea National Reserve is just 42 square kilometers with a carrying capacity of about 47 elephants, 47 to 49 elephants. Currently, we have, from the last census, we have about 156 elephants. That is 150% more than what it's ideally supposed to be maintaining. So when you have such large numbers within a small ecosystem, you end up with degradation of the habitats. And this exercise is one of the things that is doing to mitigate that. So we are removing some of the pressure on the habitat. So there'll be habitat restoration in the area to allow even for the growth of other species within that ecosystem. So we have what we call the pre-translocation phase. We have the actual translocation, what you're experiencing now. And even after this, after tomorrow or Wednesday, when you complete the exercise, we'll have the third phase of post-translocation monitoring. So in the pre-translocation phase, that is where you'll see all the fears are put in. We look at all the risks and what mitigation measures can be put to cater for that.
Here in Aberdare, a lot of due diligence was done to ensure that they will cope well. KWS, who I commend, have also employed technology. You have seen they have been collared digitally, and therefore their movement.
We have sharpened our skills here. We feel that this in a Lekond, if you see from morning when we captured the 5 in less than 5 hours, we are here delivering them.
Chad, Mali, and Niger have experienced unprecedented floods in recent weeks. This season, torrential rains in some Sahel countries in the fringes of the Sahara have burst dams, flooded desert towns, killed over 1,400 people, and exacerbated the many humanitarian crises within the region. Residents in Chad's capital report that the flood swept higher than previous years, and to address the perennial issue, the country must be better prepared. The urgency to protect communities better is clear. Floods are the most common and costliest disaster for Africa, and the costs are rising. According to the World Meteorological Organization, the continent's disaster-linked economic losses, mainly due to floods, storms, and droughts, jumped 52% in 2010 to 2019, compared with the preceding 3 decades. Deputy Director of the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's NOAA Climate Prediction Center, Wasila Tio, explains that intense heat over the Sahara and other factors pull the monsoon belt further north than usual, causing downpours in usually arid desert areas. Mali declared a state of national disaster and pushed back the start of the academic year by a month as schools filled with families driven from their homes by the floods.
Yes, I mean, if you monitor the West African monsoon system, you will notice that over the past 15 years or so, the West African monsoon system has been extremely active. That means that we have had torrential rainfall surpluses almost every year happening in West Africa during the summer season, especially between July and September.
If we're so confident that these systems and approaches are working in some areas, we also have the responsibility to talk about like the constraints more than we do areas where perhaps they're not ready to be developed, and then we can work towards developing the enabling environments before we allocate resources to try it out. So we're at a critical moment, I'd say, and I think the West Africa and Central Africa case exemplifies that, because the forecasts were there. the forecast data indicated enhanced rainfall is very likely.
And that's Network Africa today. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Banda.